Hey y'all, it is Sunshine. It has been a while, but I wanted to come back and talk about this eclipse season. We had an eclipse um, around April 20th, a solar eclipse, and we are having another one May 5th, a lunar eclipse. So I wanted to talk about that. Eclipses are kind of like my favorite because they signal to us major things that are happening that may be coming up in our lives, major transitions, and is something to be on the lookout for. Usually, there is an eclipse that happens before any big transition in your life. And I want to go through eclipses to talk about maybe the path for you to go back and pinpoint what could have been happening during a time period where the same type of eclipse may have happened or the eclipse been hitting the same planet. Um, so I always like to look back at events from the past to determine what could be transpiring in our lives now and in the future. Our birth charts reveal a pattern to us. These themes and patterns often repeat themselves throughout our lives. Now, it doesn't mean the same thing will happen, but usually there will be the same, issue around the same area of your life. Um, one eclipse you may have ended a relationship. Another one, you may get married. Another eclipse may involve you having to move to a different state or country because of your spouse or significant other. But it all centers around relationships. So it may be different things happening because there are different planets with the eclipses that give different energy. Different things could be affected or impacted based on what planet may or may not be with the eclipse. Um, there is usually though the same thing because it's hitting the same planet. That planet is in a particular house. It rules a particular house. That planet could be part of some type of aspect configuration that is a major configuration for you. So I want to go through eclipses and track them throughout their 18 and a half year, um, I guess, path. So, all right, let's get started and see what comes up. So, I am going to talk a little bit about the eclipses and then I'll show you guys charts. So, if you're listening and then you want to come back later to watch the next part of the video that actually shows charts, feel free to do that. But like I said, you can track these eclipses. It kind of reminds me of Saturn's path. Saturn, we can usually time that every 7 years. Saturn is going to make an aspect to whatever planet. Um, so first it's going to conjunct the planet, then it's going to square it, then it's going to oppose it, and then it's going to square it again before it conjuncts it again. Okay. We all love Saturn, right? We love Saturn transits. They are great. But usually, if you look at every 7 years from that conjunction, something is coming up in that same area. And it's kind of like a checkpoint. Like, hey, how we doing in this area? Hey, don't forget that we got to work through these things. And there, of course, are transits in between that time, but those are the major checkpoints. And I found this to be relevant with eclipses as well. So once an eclipse conjuncts a planet, so if there's a solar eclipse on your moon, um, it's going to be that same solar eclipse or close to that degree 18 and a half years later. So if we track it for those 18 and a half years, we'll probably see some of the same stuff. So I'm going to give you an example. So for example, in 1988, an eclipse was conjunct my fourth house. Yes, eclipses to angles can be extremely important. I started kindergarten then. I can't believe I'm about to be 40, y'all. But anyway, so I started kindergarten around 1988. And then I'm going to jump to 1997. And it was then hitting my 10th house. And I was entering high school. So the status, right, for me was changing and it was shifting because now I'm in high school. So that makes sense. But let me go back. Okay, so we had 1988, 1997, I went to high school. But in 1992, which was about 5 years in between that period, that eclipse squared, the angles for me, my fourth and 10th house, and it was in Sag. And um, my brother was born then. He was born 10 years after me. So that really affected my home life. And it affected, my status because now I'm becoming a big sister for the first time, and there's a different role for me, and it's oh wow, but my home life is being affected. So that was something I noticed when I was doing this, and I'm like, okay, all right. So again, home status, position in the world is all being affected because that's what the fourth and 10th house is about. Okay, so let's jump to 2002. Okay, so 97. Remember, I went to high school in 2002. So I'm kind of going through all the mutable signs here. Okay, so in 2002 is when I was in college and I got a really big position in college. And that was pretty big for me. Um, that was like a major role for me. Kind of, my first time leading, my first time doing, management type things. It really was the starting point for kind of what I do now, my everyday work. So yeah, that was big. That was squaring that as well. And so I guess you can say my home life changed. I mean, I still lived on campus. I still lived in the dorms. Um, at that time, um, but tuition or my room and board was free. So that changed. I moved to a different dorm and I had a little bit more freedom because I was ahead of, that particular floor dorm. So it was pretty cool to experience that. But anyway, so then in 2007, we have um, a conjunction, okay, to my fourth house. So think about it. 1988, there's a conjunction to my fourth house. And then in 2007, there's another conjunction. I think that's the 18 and a half years, y'all. So in 2007, huge, 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 transition. Yep, that was about 19 years. So a lot happened. I graduated from college. I moved back to my hometown, got my first real adult job, and I had a baby. So do y'all see where I'm going with this? Like, I was able to track that. And so when it hits me again, I'm going to say, oh, it's probably going to be something that happens in my career home life. So it's not surprising that in about 2025, 26, when another eclipse hits that angle, there's going to be some changes. Other little, maybe fun fact is I bought a house when it was squaring um, the angles too, and that was back in 2011. But then I also enrolled in school again back in college. So yeah, it was affecting that again. Um, in 2016, I got a promotion at work. It was conjunct my 10th house. Okay, so if we think about the time frames I'm using, 98, then 92. So we're talking about 4 or 5 years. 97, that's 5 years. Okay. 2002, we're talking about, 5 years. So if we're looking at 4.5 to 5 years in between these eclipses, there is an eclipse that's happening, and it's not the same eclipse. Let's understand. So one eclipse may be a solar eclipse, and the other one may be lunar, but it's still hitting the same point. Y'all, squares makes a difference in eclipses. I used to only think that it was conjunctions and oppositions, but no, y'all, squares. Pay attention to those. They may not be as strong, right? I think I just mentioned I bought a house, but that was a pretty big deal for me. Pretty big deal. It still is catapulting you, thrusting you in some direction. Okay. Obviously, the conjunction was enormous, in 2016. It did wonders for me in my career, my day to day job, y'all. This is my passion. Astrology is my love. So I don't look at this as work, or this is my life's mission, my vocation. But in my career, it really gave me a huge promotion, and it was a huge difference. So in June 2020, um, it was in Sag and it squared, right, the fourth and tenth house again. I enrolled in a certification course that will boost my brand. So, some of you may know I'm an astrologer, but I'm always in school. Like my Gemini planets are strong, y'all, strong. So I'm a forever student. So I'm always in school learning something. But I you know, um, enrolled in another certification course that I don't necessarily need, but it was important to me because at that point I had went back to college to get another master's degree in counseling, but decided, and at that point I think my credits I was going to lose them because it had been almost 10 years. And so I had to decide what to do with them or if I was going to do anything. But I decided not to go back and finish that degree, although I was very close to being done. I decided to go to school to get my life coach certification and other coaching certifications because I felt like it aligned with more of what I want. I'm more of a mentor type of coach. I like to give information, such as astrology, such as, you know, things to do with other personality testing. And I like to give that type of information. So that was more in line with what I like to do. Um, so I did that and that was huge for me. That was, it's huge for me because it's going to set me up for things in the future and it already has. So I say all that to say, I know there was a lot, but I really wanted you to understand how I use that and how it applied to my life and how it could apply to your life. And you'll see as I go through different chart examples or explain the eclipse charts and you think about what was going on for you. So, anytime there is a mutable, eclipse around, the degrees of my fourth and 10th house, so, 5 degrees either way, my career and home life will be affected. Now that might be a simple one, right? Because it's the fourth and 10th house. You know exactly what's going to be affected. But if it's, Venus or if it's the sun, or if it's the moon, there's other things you kind of have to take into consideration, and that is, where those planets are in the chart, what houses do they rule, what other planets are they connected to. So it gets a little bit more complicated. So I used the easy one, but I wanted you to know how powerful those eclipses are to the angles. Um, so let's see what happens in 2025, 26. My son supposed to graduate from high school, so which means he could be leaving my home at that time. So that will be a huge change because he is my only child at this time. So that will be a huge transition. But there can be other things that happens there too. I mean, can be other things. I mean, who knows? So we'll have to wait and see. The transits and progressions will fill in the blank for what is going on. So the eclipses will give the theme, what areas are being affected, but the transits will fill it in to say, okay, let me give a little bit more context to what this could be. And that's why the planets that are with the eclipses makes a huge difference because those are going to be the planets that are making aspects to, you know, um, those planets over that course of the year. Other transits will still signal events that are about to occur without eclipses. But trust me, eclipses are major, major, major transitions. It's something you cannot ignore. It is major transitions of endings and new beginnings. You're definitely about to be thrust into new directions. Um, so I wanted to kind of give that, explanation before we get into talking about the actual eclipse that occurred in April and the one that's about to happen and how you can apply it to your life. So let's get into it. All right. So there are so many great videos, awesome videos out there about um, explaining the eclipse and what was with it and what energy, it brings. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but I do want to give some information about these eclipses and what you could possibly be looking for um, when you're thinking about the impact it's had for you. Okay, so this eclipse was at 29 degrees Aries, a major point. It's a critical degree and a cardinal sign. I mean, it's a major, major point. So anybody, and this eclipse is affecting so many people because it's extending to so many different signs. So we're talking about, going back to about 24 of cardinal signs. So that's Aries, Cancer, um, Capricorn, um, and Libra. Sorry, drawing a blank. So those four signs definitely. But then we got to extend it to 5 degrees of the fixed signs. So 5 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. Because y'all getting hit too. Okay, so early degrees of um, those signs. So this eclipse is affecting a lot. Um, and it's with the North Node. So there's a North Node there, but it's also squaring out of sign Pluto. That's it right there. Now pay attention to, if I say, oh, it's square Pluto or it's conjunct Jupiter, um, that's major because those themes could come up in the other eclipses, or it may not be with the other eclipses, which gives it a different color, a different flavor. Okay. First of all, Jupiter, Pluto squares. You know, if I'm looking at somebody's chart and I see a Jupiter Pluto aspect, I'm thinking about money. Major, 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 major money aspect, especially if it's related to money houses. I'll do that later, but I have so many charts, so many people, obviously celebrities, that have this aspect, and it's a money maker. I'm talking about money, 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 money maker. Now there are people who do not have this aspect that makes money, but you consider other aspects like Venus, things like that. But baby, listen, I just had to say that. Not saying that this eclipse is going, you know, allow you to make money. It would be great. It would be awesome. This eclipse. is in the, Pluto is in the second house. But um, if anybody's born during this time, and at this time that this eclipse happened and Pluto being there, whoo, honey, that's gonna be something. But anyway, it is square because Pluto is going to go back into Capricorn. Okay, so it is going to trigger this eclipse point throughout this year. So this is going to signal transformations and transformations that has been happening. These are changes that has been happening or it's been slowly happening or you recognize that it needs to happen and you're working through it. This is life changing. This is life changing, y'all. This could change the course of your life. It could be completely thrown off. Luckily, Jupiter is there to soften it, so we know blessings are going to come from this. We know blessings are going to come from this. You look at the um, ruler of this eclipse, which is Mars. Okay. And that's in Cancer there. So we do want to look at that. It's in the seventh house, so relationships could be affected. Mars is not super strong, so there could be a lot of defensiveness and stuff that comes up. And when you're trying to change and you're trying to make these transitions, so and it's square in Chiron, so there's some wounds there, y'all. Mm. If this is hitting me, I know for personally, what this is bringing up and what people need to heal from and how it's affecting people. It's going to be beautiful at the end of this, but this is just not one of those eclipses where boom, new beginning, let's move forward, let's celebrate, let's yay. No, it's not that. We got some transitions to go through. So there's some endings to this one. This is a little different. There's some endings to this one before we can get into the new beginnings. But if you do the work, it's coming. If you do the work, I promise you it's coming. Just do the work. Okay. All right. So I am going to, let's see what chart next. So let's go all the way back, y'all, to 2004. So we're talking 18 years on this one. I know it's a long time ago. I cannot believe we're in 2023. So this is, as you can see, there, it's the same eclipse. Voila. See, we have it. It's just in a different house. It's just in a different house, but it's still at 29 degrees. The North Node is still in Taurus. So see how it repeated itself? Um, but the planets are different. It's not square Pluto this time. Mm-mm. So the energy of it would have been different. So in 2004, what were you experiencing? What changes were happening? If we can think back that far, it was a long time ago. What information was brought to you that changed your life? And I say information because Mercury is with this eclipse. Mercury retrograde. This eclipse is square to Chiron. What information brought up old wounds? Hmm? So think about that because that could be playing out now. That's playing out now. There's some stuff, and it may not be the same information, it just may be in a different form. But that wound is still there. That's something you're still working through, you're still trying to heal from. It just may be playing out in your life in a different way with different people in different situations. But what information opened up an old wound? Think about it. And, it'll give you some idea of what could be happening now. Now, it doesn't mean it's bad, because maybe back in 2004, we were younger. And so the way we handle things were very different. And we're in a different point in our life. But as I said, our birth chart reveals patterns and themes that we will deal with throughout our life. So it's going to keep coming up. How you respond to it is just going to be different. Whether you've done the work, it's going to be different. So this time it could be not that bad. It could be a welcome change. It'll give you a new perspective, and you're welcoming it. You may be more comfortable with Pluto energy. Okay. So there's just some things that need to be revisited. There's just some things that need to be addressed again. Just make sure you're good. That's all. Just make sure you're good. Um, so this time too, something to be mindful of. The ruler last time was um, or this, in April of 2023, the ruler Mars was in Cancer. It was a more emotional tone. Um, this is in Gemini. So again, that's information. It is opposite Pluto. See how Pluto came back into the picture? So, wounds, is it wounds around abuse? Is it power struggles? What was happening? So it's time to heal. It's time to heal, y'all. If we still are struggling with this on the same level that we were back then, and we haven't made progress, it's time to do the work. It is always going to be there. So have compassion for yourself. Don't think about you being fixed, quote unquote. Um, but it's time. We listen, we can't go through another 18 and a half years and be back at the same point, struggling with the same stuff. Let's learn how to respond. All right, so let me get off my horse. So I'm going to go to this next item. Y'all made a mistake. So I said 4.5 year point. Clearly, this is not the 4.5 year point. Clearly, it's not. Um, but this is what, 6 years. But this still gave me what I needed and what I was looking for. Okay, so I was looking for, we were doing the Aries solar eclipse. So I wanted to give it from a different angle. So it's still a cardinal sign. Capricorn is still a cardinal sign. So whatever planet these solar eclipses hit in 2004 and 2003, it's going to be hit. It's going to be a square, possibly. It's going to be a square this time, possibly. So if you had planets at, you know, 29 Aries, this eclipse in 2010 was going to is squaring that. Okay, so these eclipses talked about, new beginnings. This is a new beginning, but this may be more, it could be more internal. It's a square. So squares are not, there's tension and there's usually internal stuff going on. But so it's not outward. It's not, you know, boom in your face. But just think about 2010, what was happening in your life, what was shifting. Okay, there should still have been something there. Okay, Venus is also with this eclipse. This is also a north node eclipse. Um, so this wasn't as turbulent, This may have been a beautiful change. This was nice. It was welcome. Okay. Sextile Uranus. This wasn't, you know, it wasn't horrible. It wasn't horrible. Okay. All right. So I wanted to, all right, this is the April of 2014. So now we're talking about 4.5 years. So that's the 4.5 years I was referring to between 2010 and 2014. I just had it on the wrong slide. And this eclipse is just the eclipse that we just had in April. So I'm just kind of comparing a little bit. So this eclipse occurred 9 years ago. Okay, so you noticed I did, um, you know, 2023, but I went back to 18, 19 years, which was in 2004. And then I moved forward to 2010. I probably could have even given you um, the 2009 eclipse. That would have been more in line with that eclipse, but you get the gist, okay? So 2004, 2010, then I move again to 2014, um, and then we had the 2023, but I'm sure if I went to 2018, we will see the same points being hit, okay? So this one, just I wanted to give you this one as well because this is now a lunar eclipse. So the other ones were solar eclipses. But this is a lunar eclipse around somewhat of the same degree. Now, the difference with um, this eclipse and even the one from 2004, the one from 2010 versus this one is this is hitting the fixed signs. This isn't, this one and the other ones aren't so much hitting the fixed signs because it's not extending. I only go about 5 degrees. It may get to, zero Taurus. So the beginning 0 degree of the fixed signs, but it's not extending as far as this one. Okay. So this one is a lunar eclipse. So we have the lunar eclipse. We look at the moon. It is in Libra. Okay. But it's still hitting, if you have that planet in Aries, it's still hitting that same planet. It's still hitting it. Okay. So we still feeling the effects. I know you are because this was right on it. Okay. So let's see here. Um, we have this at 25 degrees. I mean, I do see the Mercury and Uranus here, and you have Mars there, but that's pretty far from that eclipse point. So I won't use that as I won't use that. Um, but this is, this is what this was happening. We did have, this opposition there. So that was part of the transits. That's why I said it will color some of it. We also had, so it was not just the opposition, we have this opposition. So we have a grand square in this eclipse chart. So these transits, if you have planets at these degrees, you were getting hit big time. I mean, this was huge. So if you have planets at, I'm going to say 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, that you were getting hit just by the square, let alone, let alone the eclipse. So that was a major part of that. That's why I'm saying we got to include the transits as well. That is a huge part of this eclipse. Usually there is a breakdown of the eclipse chart, and I'm not doing that completely here because I'm going over so much, but there's a ton of information out there on people who break down these eclipses and look at that eclipse chart and give so much more information. So look at the planets that were being hit. So again, This is all the cardinal signs. This is all the cardinal signs. Remember, there are multiple eclipses throughout a year. So if you're not being hit, if this degree isn't being hit this time, later in the year, you may be getting hit. So it's definitely signaling something coming. Okay, so look at what planet is being hit, where the planet is, what house does it rule. Okay. All right, so hopefully y'all getting that. Hopefully y'all getting that. All right, so let's move on to this eclipse that's coming. So the April eclipse, there's going to be some revelations, things happening throughout this year. So I think you're going to feel it definitely because Pluto is about to station and go retrograde, and baby, it's coming. It's coming. You're gonna get hit and you're gonna feel it. So, by this summer, you'll definitely start to see some things happening. By the end of the year, October, maybe by the next eclipse, the things will have probably occurred. The new beginning should be definitely happening at that point. Okay. All right, so the lunar eclipse that's happening on Friday is in the later degrees of a little bit later of the fixed signs of Taurus and Scorpio. Okay, so the April eclipse was hitting up to about 5 degrees Scorpio. Or I'm sorry, 5 degrees Taurus. Sorry, but this one is hitting, 14. So we're talking about up to about 19, 20 degrees this way, and we're talking about maybe about 9, 10 degrees the other way. Okay, so this is this is hitting you guys. Y'all, Uranus is with this one. Ooh, it's gonna be shaking up some things. Some surprises, some sudden things are happening. Don't y'all run out there and get married now. Telling you, don't get married without looking at them charts. Don't get married without premarital counseling. Go talk to somebody. Don't break up with your person because you just feeling restless because you do not want to be out here in these dating streets. I promise you, you don't. Okay, so don't. Now, if you have been trying to leave a situation, you know it's not right for you, um, and you just haven't been able to get up the nerve to do it, this can do it for you. Okay, the universe is like, get out, leave, run, let's go right now. Okay, but just don't be going to have no affairs and stuff, because honey, we don't know what's gonna happen with this Uranian energy. Like it's too unpredictable. I commend people who live with this energy, who has Aquarius or Uranus strong in their chart, because like how do y'all? I don't get it. I'm strongly Saturn, so this is so not my cup of tea. I wish I was free spirited like that, but I'm not. So, um, this is going to be some possibly shocking events, some sudden events. Now, you guys have been, I mean, there's been eclipses that have been happening in the Taurus and Scorpio um, signs for a while, and so you've been feeling this for a little bit. So this isn't probably new, but eclipses happen over a period of time, and so they keep happening and keep coming up. It just may not be hitting the same degree. So, and then Uranus has been with it because Uranus has been going through Taurus. So this isn't, something that's very new, but we're going to have the last one in October. So we're coming to a close with the eclipses in the Taurus and Scorpio axis with Uranus. Okay. So just be mindful of this restlessness. Um, the difference, if you notice, there's different energy. That's why I said the transits, makes a big difference. This eclipse is with Uranus, and the other eclipse in April was with Pluto and Jupiter. Um, they both mean change. It's just a type of change is different. Uranus is sudden. It's this restless energy, it's nervousness. It's like I gotta go, I gotta move, something gotta change right now, like yesterday. Pluto was slow. Pluto was like that slow death. It's like, can we just get it over with already? Like, damn, how much more work do I gotta do? Why can't this just happen right now? And it's like it's a 9 month gestation period. When Pluto transits are like 9 months, y'all. It's like having a baby. And you gotta go through the morning sickness and you gotta go through all this stuff. So there's some changes happening, and it's just slow. So, with the ending, because that's what lunar eclipses are about, it's like bam, boom, it happened. We moving on. And Pluto, with the new beginning, it's like, hold on, wait. We gotta got a slow motion into the new beginning. Slow motion into the new beginning. It's interesting, but that's how that works. So let's just we gotta ride with it. We gotta flow with the rhythm. Okay, we gotta flow with it. I'm big into the laws of the universe, and the law of rhythm is like we gotta go with the ebbs and flow. We gotta learn how to flow with the current, because when we resist it, that's when life gets really, really, really hard. Really hard. All right, so let's go back. Let's take it way back. Back in the time. That's Backstreet, y'all. If I could sing, I would sing that song right now, but I can't. So we're taking it back 18, 19 years. So the same time frame I use for the solar eclipse. But this is just a lunar eclipse. What do you have it? There's the degree, 14 degree. Um, so it's a lunar eclipse. Now, if I go, I don't think I can go back. But I think I can't remember. I should have looked. I can't remember if this um, eclipse on Friday is with the. It is with the South Node. Does it's with the South Node. So it is still with the South Node, and so yeah. So what planets do you have that could be conjuncted? Square it, oppose it. Got anything at those degrees? At 14, 19, 9, 10 degrees? Is anything there? What area of your life is being impacted? Think about that. What is it? Okay. This is what's interesting is we're looking at, the ruler of this lunar eclipse, and you got Mars and Pluto, which both rule Scorpio. They're opposing each other there. What was happening in 2004? If you didn't get hit by the solar eclipse, what was happening in 2004 that may have been coming to a close? You may have to think about that. Write some stuff down. Ask some family what was going on. All right, so I did 2009 for this one. And as you can see, it's at 13 degrees Aries, Leo, and Aquarius. So different axes. Okay, we had Scorpio, we have Taurus Scorpio, but now I'm doing this one. So it's squaring whatever degree you had before, possibly. What was impacting you? What was happening? We have, Venus opposing Pluto in this eclipse, but nothing major that's aspecting the eclipse. But what was happening? Did you have any planets close to um, 0 to your Capricorn? Anything in Sag, late Sag, that was affecting you? Just think about that. Okay, so now I went to 2014 and 13. So there was two eclipses, and I did that because, um, I think the degree was 1458 for this May's eclipse. And so it's like, okay, do you go back? Why is it exactly 9 degrees and 58 minutes? Is that where the cutoff is? Is you just drop off, anything earlier than that? I don't know. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one out. I'm still trying to come to some type of agreement with that one. So that's why I did this one, because it goes back to 8 degrees and 51 minutes. So I will be curious to know if you felt that during this time frame. You know, did you feel anything April to October of that year? If you had planets at 14, Taurus or Scorpio. Then we have the one in November of 2013, the one that was before 14, obviously. But that one was closer to the degree that this eclipse, because it's only about 3 degrees, 3 or 4 degrees away. So it's definitely closer. So that one would have been affecting you if it's affecting you with this May eclipse. This one is with Mercury again, so information, but it was also with Saturn. So this new beginning probably started with some restriction. It might have started with some restriction. So was there some resistance to the new beginning? What was going on? So again, you should be noticing themes here. You should be noticing themes. You should be like, okay, I get it now. So hopefully you notice that repeated theme in the area of your life, whether it's regarding work, relationships, children, parents. Now I know a lot of this could spill into many different areas. Obviously, if you're being affected by work, then your family and your children and your relationships are going to be impacted. So it's going to spill over. But what was the initial? What was impacted initially? What did it center around initially? And typically eclipses um affect it's so big and such a big transition. It does affect more than one area. But what was the catalyst? Eclipses, something is being eclipsed out. Something is. Okay, but it all brings renewed energy. It all brings beginnings. It's a time to um, make those transitions, work through any hardships. The universe will give you a gentle nudge at first. It will give you a gentle nudge and say, hey, tap you on your shoulder, like, let's do this. Let's keep it moving. Let's go. But then if you don't listen, it's gonna jolt you. I think there's one um I think meme I seen, and it's like this big hand, flicking you off of a cliff. And that's what the hell will happen if you don't answer to the call of what's going on. It's sending you a message. And I want to just reiterate this. Eclipses does not cause events to happen. I'm not one of those people that believe that planets cause anything to happen. It's alerting us and sending us messages of what's about to happen. Just like, clock. At 5 o'clock, just because the clock says it's 5 o'clock does not mean it's creating an event. But it's letting know that it's 5 o'clock. And at 5 o'clock, it's usually rush hour. But it doesn't cause rush hour. It's just letting us know that now we're in a rush hour. Use this time to work on the things you need to work on. Make the necessary changes, things that you've been wanting to do. You're going to be pushed into your destiny, whether you want to or not. So, how you go is up to you. Use astrology to your benefit to understand and get knowledge about life, about your relationships, about your career, your passion. Get an understanding. If you want to know about your children and how to understand your children better, that's what this is for. Knowledge and understanding helps you to have wisdom. Wisdom is about applying the knowledge and understanding. If you don't have the knowledge and understanding, you can't apply nothing. So that's what we need to be doing. That's what we need to be using this for. It's just to understand what messages, what does, the universe, what does God want us to know or want us to hear and want us to understand. It does not take the place of your beliefs or your faith, any of that. But this is just another tool to use to understand what's happening. Astrology has been around for so long. It has been used to time so many events. So many events. Whether you say you believe in it or not, it's happening. And the science is there. I mean, the information, the data is there. So, anyway, hopefully this gave you some understanding about these eclipses that are happening and how you can go back and look. I'll probably do this every time an eclipse happens because I think it is so, so, so important for us to understand this and to work with this energy. So until next time, peace, love, and light.